Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our first budget workshop of the year. Just as someone who has had the privilege of coming to the district over the past few months and getting to kind of listen and learn from all of our students, our staff, our community members, our parents, just about the priorities of the district, that's really what has driven a lot of our decision making based on our budget proposal that we're going to start presenting this evening. Really our district priorities, as you can see presented here, are the following. We really want to focus on creating a safe and supportive environment for our students. We want to focus on continuous growth of our instructional program. That includes extracurricular activities and the programs that we have within the classroom. We want to make sure that our course offerings are relevant and engaging for our students and that they're preparing them for their 21st century skills that they need. We want to take a look at the innovative learning spaces that we have existing currently in our district and also the opportunity to create new innovative learning spaces. If you do stick around for tonight's Board of Education meeting at 7:30, we have a wonderful group of students and staff members presenting about our STEM program that we're excited about sharing some of those spaces. That's just one we can highlight. A focus on professional development. One thing I've really just been so impressed with our educators in West Islip is just the dedication of being lifelong learners and constantly growing and adjusting. We want to support our staff in that process. Safe, clean, well-maintained, and energy-efficient buildings are important, and also opportunities for parent awareness and collaboration. Really, we've had a great opportunity, just this full administrative team, to collaborate with parents across the district and really hear experiences that they've had across the district and also areas in which they feel that we need to make some sort of improvements and things like that. And all of that has gone into our budget process and planning. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it off to Ms. Pilati.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Romanelli. So on February 1st, Governor Hochul presented her proposal for the 2023-24 state budget. And overall, her proposal includes an increase in school aid of $3.1 billion, or 9.97% over the current levels. That aid increase would be provided through $2.7 billion of an increase in foundation aid, and a remaining $332 million increase in expense-based aid and other categorical aids. That executive budget proposal continues with the final year of the 3-year phase-in of foundation aid. So essentially, that plan provided for all of those districts who were not fully funded in foundation aid to receive their final increase to make them 100% fully funded in foundation aid. Unfortunately, for West Islip, we were already fully funded. So I guess fortunately or unfortunately. But other districts who are not, who are also in our situation where we were already fully funded, will receive the minimum 3% in foundation aid. West Islip state aid is projected to increase by only 3.29%, which is mainly due to that fact, that we were already fully funded in foundation aid, so we didn't need to be made whole. As with previous years, we have 3 main budget goals. We really strive to have a balanced budget that's both fiscally responsible and operationally efficient. We want to maintain and enhance the current programs and services that we offer to our students, while of course maintaining and staying within the tax cap. Maintaining financial transparency is another important budget goal. We do make several documents available on our district website, such as our annual auditor's reports, that's both internal and external, and if we have an OSC report. Both our monthly financial statements, the district's reserve plan, and our transparency reports. Twice a year we're required to submit transparency reports to the state education department. As we go through this budget process, various budget documents will also be available online on our website, as well as the presentations. And tonight is the first of 4 budget workshops in which the board and administration will go over different parts of the budget development process. So our budget development process really starts in the fall. We analyze budget trends, we estimate various renewal rates, we look at historical data, we have to use industry projections to project certain rates that we were going to have for next year. The most common example in where we have to project would be health insurance. So health insurance is a very large line item in our expenditure budget, and health insurance runs on a calendar year. So of course, that year ends December 31st, so every January 1st, the health insurance rates will change. However, our school year runs on a fiscal year, July 1st through June 30th. So for those last 6 months of the year, we don't know what the health insurance rates are going to be, and we won't know that throughout the entire budget process. So we have to use an estimate. The district does consider changes in contractual obligations as well. We are currently in negotiations with 2 of our bargaining units, both our teachers and our paraprofessionals, as their contracts will expire at the end of this fiscal year. In early December, our administrators are required to submit their budgets to central office. Then we hold several meetings and we go over those budgets with them line by line and in detail and go over different staffing needs and program needs. We continually review staffing and different services and programs that we'd like to offer or things we can improve throughout the entire budget process. In February, the governor did release her proposal for the executive budget, and the board will discuss, as I mentioned, various components of the budget throughout these 4 workshops. They take place over February and March. In April, hopefully by April 1st, the state-approved budget will be released, so we'll know our final state aid numbers, and then the board will adopt the budget, and in May we hold a budget hearing, and of course, on May 16th, we have our annual budget vote. So since the tax cap was enacted many years ago, I think it's 11 years now, the budget formula basically was flipped on its head. So this is how it looks now. Districts are required to first calculate their restricted tax levy. So that's a formula that we follow that's provided by the OSC. So we get that calculated amount, and that's the amount that we can levy in taxes. We then have to add in whatever anticipated state aid we expect to receive, as well as any other revenues that we expect to earn next year. We also add in any appropriated fund balance and any amounts that we're going to appropriate from reserves. And that simply means that you're using those amounts as a revenue source to help fund your budget. What you're left with, the end result, is your expenditure budget for the following year. That tax levy limit did become effective in 2012-13, and it allows a district to increase their property tax levy from one year to the next by 2% or the rate of inflation, whichever is less. As I mentioned, it's based on a multi-step formula that's provided by the OSC, the Office of the State Comptroller, and since there are exclusions and adjustments, that same formula will yield different results for different districts. And if a district chooses to tax at a rate that's higher than the percentage derived from the formula, that is considered piercing the tax cap, and you will need a supermajority vote. West Islip has never pierced the tax cap, and this calculation is now a permanent part of our budgeting process. The levy calculation is due to the state by March 1st, and ours was submitted on Monday night. I know it might be hard to see, but I thought this line graph was really very telling in what's going on currently with inflation. So this is a summary of the allowable tax levy growth factor that's used in the formula, which is the red line, which I don't know if you can see it. The inflation factors, so what the actual change in inflation was, is the green line. And what West Islip's allowable factor is, which is based on that formula, is the blue line. So the allowable tax levy growth factor that's used in the tax cap formula, again, the red line, the rule is it can be the lesser of 2% or the rate of inflation. So that red line is never going to go above 2%. And historically, it's been very close to the green line, as you can see. So since this tax cap was enacted, we really haven't had a major issue because inflation and what we're able to use in our formula, it's been very similar. However, as you can see, in this school year, in 22-23, that changes. The inflation factor for 22-23 was 4.7%. That's the green line. And the allowable levy growth factor, of course, is capped at 2%. And our West Islip increase last year was 1.99%. Now, it just got even worse this year, this coming year for 2023-24. As you can see, the inflation factor jumped up to 8%. However, our allowable levy growth factor is still only 2%. And when we use that formula to calculate what West Islip can increase our levy, it's only 1.87. So this is our actual calculation that I'll take you through, and this is what was submitted to the Office of the State Comptroller. So essentially, you start the formula by taking your prior year tax levy. So that's the year we're in right now. That's the amount of taxes that we levied, the 90.3 million there. You then multiply it by your tax-based growth factor. That's essentially the year-to-year increase in the full value of your taxable real property. So why this would increase is because of things such as new construction or someone's doing improvements to their property. That number will never be less than 1, and for West Islip, actually, it increased. I believe last year it was 1.0017, and as you can see, it's a slight increase for this year. So again, we would then add in any pilot payments. That's the 109,000 you see there. So pilot payments are essentially payments in lieu of taxes. Some people, some commercial property owners will make an agreement with the town to enter an agreement to say, okay, we're going to pay 10 years of different payments to you in lieu of paying their, for a negotiated period of time. And then essentially, when that runs out, they go back on the normal assessed value and they calculate their taxes that way. We only have one pilot payment in our district, and it's for a veterinary office on Sunrise Highway. So each year, we contact the town of Islip, find out the assessed value of that property because they are well past their number of years, and we calculate what the pilot payment will be. So we add in our pilot payments. We then have to back out what's called the exemptions. So essentially, you're able to remove from the calculation any costs that you use to contribute to improving your facilities. So we have debt service costs each year. Those are from bonds. We've used bonds to improve our facilities. So each year we take all of our debt service payments that we know we're going to have to pay, and we net it with whatever building aid and any transportation aid on any bus purchases, and that net cost is considered your exemption amount. So you back that out, and then essentially you multiply that by your allowable levy growth factor, the 1.02%, and you do the same thing for the next year's amounts, which is we're going to back out the 23-24 pilots, then we're going to add in our exemptions, and then essentially we arrive at the allowable levy limit with exclusions for West Islip of 92 million. That increase represents a 1.87 increase in our tax levy from the prior year. A better summary of that is here, which is just showing that our tax levy for 23-24 is $92,077,197. It represents an increase of almost 1.7 million, or 1.87%. One of our basic budget goals, of course, is to have a balanced budget, as I mentioned. That means your revenues and your fund balance will equal your expenses. However, we do face several financial challenges this year throughout the budget process. Our tax levy is only increasing by the 1.87%. However, as I mentioned, inflation is 8%. High inflation rates are impacting many areas of our budget. Insurance, energy costs, many areas. We have also received, as I mentioned, the state aid projections, which is only increasing 3.29% as of now. Now again, the final numbers come out April 1st, but they don't typically change that drastically from February. Our transportation contract actually expires at the end of this school year, so by law, we are required to go out for a request for proposal, which we did, and Suffolk Transportation won that again, and they were the only ones that submitted. And transportation costs are increasing significantly for next year. Health insurance rates, as I mentioned, they do change every January 1, and as of January 1, 2023, health insurance for night shift Empire increased 14.91% for family and 12.45% for an individual plan. So the first draft of our budget, as it typically does, shows that our expenses are more and they exceed our anticipated revenues. However, we are just at the beginning of our budget process, so it's not yet complete, and we have already looked to reduce whatever controllable costs we can, and we'll be maximizing the use of our available reserves. We are in a great position fiscally with our healthy fund balance, so we're able to use some of the reserves that we have as revenue sources to help fund the budget. And our teaching staff contractually must notify us of retirements by March 1st, so that's tomorrow. So future drafts of the budget may include many more retirements, because as of right now, there are, I think, only 2 in there. And that would probably help reduce the budget gap that we're currently facing. For 2023-24, we do have 3 board trustee seats open. 2 seats will be for a 3-year term, and 1 seat will be for the remaining 2 years of Mr. Confortello's term. The nominating positions for those seats will be available at district office on March 6th, and our next 3 budget work sessions will take place on March 14th, March 28th, and April 18th in the Beach Street Auditorium here at 7 o'clock. On March 14th, we'll be discussing curriculum and instruction, and then on the 28th, we'll be discussing buildings and grounds and school safety, and the last budget workshop is usually when all of our state aid numbers are in and everything is more final, and we'll go over all of the state aid, revenue, and expenditures. Nominating petitions for the board trustee seats are due back to the district office by April 17th. We will be adopting the budget on April 19th, and the public budget hearing will take place on May 9th. And as I mentioned, on May 16th, in the high school gymnasium from 7 to 9, we will have our budget vote and the trustee election. Does anyone have any questions?
More of a statement, just an 8%, 6% difference, you know,
It's a lot.
got your work cut out for you.
Yeah.
We all do. That's right. Looking forward to the challenge. Can you just review for the group the tax growth, the tax-based growth factor?
Sure.
Where do you get that from?
So the tax-based growth factor is provided to us. So the state provides that to me, and they essentially just send out a link to all of the districts, and these are your factors. I always tend to look to see, oh, did it increase, decrease? Some districts do receive a decrease, but we did receive a slight increase this year.
Is it one of those state complicated formulas to use?
It probably is. We've always just been provided it. It's based on any, like I said, any new construction, any improvements, any physical change in the real property of the town,
The whole town?
the whole town. Okay. All right.
Okay, we will conclude our first budget workshop. We will have our 7:30 regular Board of Education planning session. So, a few minutes of you hang out.